the basis for spaceships except for conveyance to escape the matrix. No, but it's more than you've seen it do. I promise you that my bars is rap genius proof, and I'd rather take the scenic route. I'm not the type that you see in groups.
Okay, this is Hold This Mic, and we're here in Southwest Philadelphia, as we have always been for each episode thus far of our podcast. And I'm here with
Akil Vix
and
Jeremiah Scalia.
And I'm Josh Kurz-Burchard. And I thought I was thinking of a topic to start. We've already actually done a little bit of premeditative talking about what we might want to talk about. But, you know, Trump is this main event, like, to the maximum in the media all the time, because he's always doing outlandish, crazy, like, ultra conservative or just ultra Trump type of stuff. And he's such an insane person, so he pulls all this media attention. So I guess, like, my question is the media attention deserved? Is it necessary in some way? Is it important? Is it, like, totally too much? And, like, what are the reasons for those types of, you know, stances? Like, if you think it's too much, if you think it's way too much, then why do you think it's too much? Too much Trump.
Well, I think it's got to be reported on because he's the president of the United States. He makes a statement, and people, you know, reporters got to report. And I think it's the kind of the manner of it and the sort of obsession and sort of you know, the shock that the media sort of is engaged in, and they kind of get into this, you know, they get into this sort of addictive, what's the word? It's like a, you know, when you become so obsessed with something.
Human centipede? No.
You become so into it.
Yeah.
That they become sort of. It's like a car crash where you become.
Oh, like, yeah, Gabriel delay,
I don't know what. Yeah, my brain is slow right now. But.
They're a part of the problem itself, in that, like, the media is showing so much, like, absolutely, you know, eye-popping, jaw-dropping coverage.
Yeah,
is like become part of.
It's like morbid fascination, I guess, is kind of the thing. You know, you become so into how fucked up it is, and you cover this, you know, incessantly. And I don't think, like, his tweets need to be covered in that kind of ridiculous, like, can you believe it? I mean, cover the tweets, but, like, you know, move on to, like, the deeper issues. And that's part of the problem, is that, you know, he tweets stuff, and then this distracts from, you know, the last, you know, major issue of when part of the media starts getting deeper into, you know, real policy matters and how it affects people, and then he does something crazy. You know, that's part of his strategy, right?
Definitely, because we've been primed for this, right? Like, reality TV, what is it other than crazy people doing crazy things for our morbid enjoyment?
Right.
And that's the world Donald Trump comes from. And, you know, let's not forget that there's totally a monetary component to this for the media. Because the media isn't free, and they have to sell ad space.
And they have to make money.
They have to make money. And how they make money by, you know, saying, like, oh my God, what did Trump do this time? Tune in at 11.
Right. And people are clicking and chasing that.
And it's what happened during the election, right? You got, you know, 3,000 Republican primary candidates. You got Hillary, you got Bernie. All of them are, you know, tried and true politicians. Bernie's a little bit exciting because the kids kind of like him, but still he's not really, you know, he's not really doing anything crazy. But then you got this guy Trump, who you just don't know what he's gonna say.
Yeah.
So during the campaign, what was it? It was CNN. Like, in 15 minutes, Donald Trump's gonna walk up to this podium, and we don't know what he's gonna say, but we'll have the entire thing for you, and then plus 3 hours of analysis of everything he said. Meanwhile, you got Bernie Sanders selling out, giant record-packed stadiums,
Right.
no coverage. You got Hillary, such as she is, trying to, illustrate her policies, but you don't really care. And then you got whoever was running at the time, however, the entire middle school for Miss Chatham's chaste boys that the Republican primary was. Like, they were saying things, but they weren't getting any coverage. And it was because Trump is the political avatar of what a lot of American entertainment has become, which is, let's watch this shit show and either I identify with it or I think I'm better than it. So like all the conservatives were like, oh, I identify with it. He tells it like it is. He's the first guy to just call out Mexicans. And then all the liberals were like, oh, can you believe this Trump guy? Like, man, he'll never be president. Well, let's just watch him and laugh at him.
Right.
And both things played into building the myth of Trump.
Right. And he did get so much coverage, so much press, but here's the thing: is that, and to me that is inevitable, because what he did, everything he said, every one of his policy. So he didn't say much about policy, but he said.
Fun fact: he did in his ads and in his campaign, he mentioned more policy than Hillary Clinton.
Right, but. He didn't have a lot of specifics. He didn't have policy position, like a fleshed out policy position when most candidates had policy positions.
Right.
That you could read forward and backward. If you could read a policy position forward and backward, you'd be pretty darn good at reading. But that he was doing things that were worthy of a lot of news coverage in my mind, and that
of course.
he was crossing not one line but 10 lines with almost every action and statement and
still is.
You had, and he
So,
still is.
so-
and you had to cover that.
Yeah.
You have to cover that. But the thing is, now that he's president, it's become such an industry to cover Trump that there's like you said, in the primary, nothing was getting covered issue-wise, and it still isn't. And it's it does seem a little bit convenient for people who are afraid of facing tough policy questions, okay, if Obamacare is having problems and and its best feature was the Medicaid expansion, which is a public insurance
Socialism.
program.
You can say it's the S word.
It's socialism.
That's right.
Did I just say socialism? And then you have to just consider that the news has become engulfed by Trump, and that they're kind of are they wagging him, or is he wagging them, or what?
Well, so here's the problem with the way the media covered it. I agree. You got a presidential candidate who was on his way to winning the election, saying terribly racist stuff. You got to cover it. But this is where the media falls down. They always fall down, is that they mistake being neutral for being objective, right? So they would just play a Trump, whatever, and then you'd have Van Jones saying that, oh man, Trump is terrible, and then you'd have Jeffrey Lord saying, oh man, Trump is great. And then we'll just, who knows? What's one of those things is true? We don't know.
Well, which segment are you talking about? Because, there were segments probably on CNN like that, or on MSNBC at times, where they need to show at least show like they're impartial.
Right.
But we all know that, as the presidency unfolded, they outright just, scream and yell about Trump. I mean, they're not.
It was their commentators, right? Like, it's only now that he's like president and he's like constantly shitting on the media that they're being a little bit more forceful about fact checking. But like when Donald Trump announces his candidacy and says, "Oh, Mexico sending their criminals and rapists and blah," we all know the whole thing, right? Then it's the media's job to be like, okay, he said that. What's the reality? Let's go check crime statistics. Let's go see that most immigrants, illegal or legal, commit crimes far less than natural-born citizens. Let's get that information out there.
They're the victims of crime.
Right, but they're so, obsessed with appearing to be objective, which in their mind isn't really objective. It's neutral.
Right.
That they can't correct. They can't do. Remember it was during the debates. It was like this huge deal that CNN was doing real-time fact-checking. It was like, you should have been doing that forever. Like, that's your job, is to fact check. You're the media. You're the fourth estate.
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were. It's true. They were letting him say things and not coming down hard on how great the lie was, or how significant it was that he had said that, because it was so like terribly untrue or damaging to how historically people who use this kind of rhetoric and try to divide the populace between like the majority and then the minorities have been so damaging to the nation politically. I mean, I think there's lots of history for that.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess, I don't know. But it is...
It was proto-both sidesism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the climate where today it can be a legitimate debate whether or not Nazis are just as bad as people who show up to fight Nazis. Mm-hmm. That all started way back when we had the news media invite climate scientists to debate climate change deniers as if these were two equal sides.
Right.
It was just like, someone has an opinion here, someone has an opinion there. What's the truth? We don't know. Maybe it's in the middle. Like, that's
right. Yeah, that's pathetic.
That's pathetic.
And it's all in the name of not letting the media be branded as the liberal media.
Right. Which is the greatest trick the conservative gestalt ever pulled, was tricking the media into thinking that it was too liberal.
And then the media having a complex about it.
Yeah.
Because they're not strong enough to confront the issue that when you look at where this information is coming from, how this information is being processed, where the Washington Post goes to get its sources, how they back up their sources, or check against facts, and that, to be honest, that their journalists are some of the best journalists, that they've excelled in whatever schools they've gone to, and they've become they've been really great at consistently and persistently digging and trying to find out the essence of what is true versus what is false. Mm-hmm. Then, you think the media has a liberal bias? Maybe it does, because it's a matter of finding. A matter of finding something that's closer to fact.
I think it has. I wouldn't say it has a liberal bias. I think it has an elite bias.
Hell yeah.
And that's one of the problems, is there's a conflating of the word liberal with elite. I mean, if you Google liberal elite and then Google conservative elite, there's going to be like almost the comparison. There's going to be so many results, millions of results, counted coming back for liberal elite. Yeah. Conservative elite, you're probably going to get like a couple thousand, or I don't know, who knows? But the point is, conservative elite is not a familiar kind of phrase, although it's incredibly conservative. The establishment media is to my view, and I think to all of our views here, that it actually is. It's not liberal. I think it is culturally. We think of it in those terms because we think of this kind of. Perhaps it's socially liberal.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a fiscal distinction here. I don't think you can say that the media is fiscally liberal. Maybe you can argue that. Maybe you can argue that it's socially liberal compared to
fiscally conservative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea that we say liberal elite and that the media is liberal, that's to your point, Akil. That's the success of the conservative campaign to paint the media as liberals when they actually are not.
If you ever want to know how liberal the media is, watch the commercials on CNN and MSNBC, the two supposed liberal media. Lexus commercial, investment commercial,
right.
Lexus commercial,
Right, yeah.
Mercedes commercial,
Right.
buy club box tickets for the basketball game.
Right.
They're advertising to a certain group of people that
that's true.
aren't that
No, it's
liberal.
true. MSNBC ads are like, like the higher end.
Yeah.
The higher end cruise line that goes to Tahiti or something, and does like a yoga retreat or something.
There's
I
like
don't know.
what's the defense? It's like Gunthrop Northam, or this is one of the defense contractors that advertises on MSNBC.
shockingly,
Like after Rachel Maddow, there's like a GE commercial.
Right.
it pains me to say this because I love this news program, but the NewsHour on PBS has paid video advertising by BNSF Railways. BNSF Railways is a rail company, but it's also a defense contractor. It's also like selling a bunch of other shit. It's a huge international company, and it's obviously it's targeted at people who have enough money and enough like they want to sway opinion among the elite, who are probably the people watching the NewsHour. I mean, you're not gonna catch a lot of people who watch the NewsHour probably are interested in the NewsHour. I mean, which way does it go? Are people watching the NewsHour because they love the content and the journalism and the fact that it's stripped down of all the BS that they hurl at you and like MSNBC and CNN and Fox News, and it's just it's more honest and it's just kind of it's more respectable or whatever.
It's got a brand,
quote unquote.
It's got like a good journalism brand.
It's but even the word brand, it's probably false of me to want to step away from that word when it comes to the NewsHour, but the NewsHour originally came from PBS, which is the public broadcasting system or service, and that was paid for by the government as a way to fund communications and news, and that was a very extremely left program.
Yeah.
But what it is now is it's been slashed over and over again. And so what it's now is a donor-funded program. There's corporate donors, individual donors. They show at the end of the program, and it's still really good, but it's still really bought. It's in people's pockets now, and that's
changed with the times that has swung more to the right. I think the other thing, I don't know, this goes back to what we're talking about, centric, what's the middle, and
You wrap it up because we have 30 seconds. I forgot that I recorded in the wrong thing. So
okay.
30 seconds.
Well, I was just going to say that can we actually say that PBS was ever really left? I mean, it's not like
back in the day it was.
Well, even back in the day, I think it always kind of tried to be straight reporting on stuff. Maybe it's certainly left compared to the middle now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think these terms.
I mean, I think we're all just trying to like skid over.
Oh wait, we have 10 more minutes. Sorry, I forgot.
Okay, good.
I think we're all just trying to skid over what we all want to say is that reality has a well-known liberal bias.
Right.
Also, I forgot another mean commercial. You know who they're trying to target with these ads is Cialis commercials.
Okay.
So think about that what you may.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a problem that we're gonna have to like really tackle, right? Is how do we fund news in the future?
Right.
You know, so like there's there's independent online outlets that I frequent, and you know there's paywalls. You know there's a certain amount of free content, but you got to pay for content. And there's like types of fund driving, and like and that's one way to do it. But we're so accustomed to having just news free on the internet, and as long as if we're not trying to pay for it, then someone else is going to pay for it. And if some one person or some one entity or some one company is going to be funding a large chunk of the news, they're going to have an outsized influence on what that news is going to be. So I don't know, you guys know about Sinclair Media Group?
Heard about it, but I don't know the details.
Basically, they are building a monopoly of local news channels.
Yeah.
And you know, you have all these local news channels that, you know, they're underfunded. They need to be there because, you know, you need to have your local affiliate news network, but they're not. They're ripe to getting bought up by this one entity, Sinclair, and they're extremely right wing. And you know, they have things where they like circulate. They'll circulate a pre-taped editorial by the people that run Sinclair, and it's all like, you know, well, back in my day, we used to beat people like Black Lives Matter because we're American, or like, you know, like I didn't pay taxes because I'm you know, it's just it's the same bullshit, but now it's being presented in people's local news, which is by far the most watched kind of news. Like we kind of are in a bubble where we're watching these like national news programs, and we think that like, yeah, it's either Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, the big three. But no, a lot of people get their news from their local affiliate.
News, yeah, they really do.
But you know, that's the problem. It's like that if we're not prepared to pay for our news, which is something we are, someone's going to pay for it, and those people are going to have
influence.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we got to give a little more credit to. It's definitely, to me, it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater to say that all journalists in outlets like the New York Times or CNN or MSNBC, that they're all compromised by the fact of the funding system, that they are, you know, that's the way they're getting paid.
I wouldn't say that. Yeah,
yeah.
I
mean, there are good, like, honest, clear-headed people in those organizations or the NewsHour, and I mean, especially in back to the NewsHour. I mean, the NewsHour is, you know, you hear the NewsHour and you hear it as like straight facts. And you're like, like, where's the spin, right, that I'm used to? And that's because in part, ethically, the idea of journalism is to just present facts and have the reader make up their minds. That's ethically, like, at a higher level than MSNBC, where,
it's opinion,
you know, the opinion, it's not just the opinion, it's like the bravado and the kind of flair for the dramatic that people show as anchors on that show, as anchors on their own show, and they're a personality, and they're there really to to lull you into that like TV like wow, this person's amazing. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I think everything they say is absolutely right on.
I love. We were talking about this later. I love Rachel Maddow. She's totally smart Glenn Beck now. If you listen to Rachel Maddow,
Smart Glenn Beck.
she's smart. It's smart Glenn Beck because like none of the stuff that she says is like completely crazy because she's smart and she knows what she's talking about. And she's a historian. But when you think about it from a macro level, she's basically giving you conspiracy theories about the Republicans and Russia.
But maybe that's good. Maybe that's important though, because you know they're feeding us. They're trying to tear us down with conspiracy theories, and we got to counter strike with Rachel Maddow.
But wait, when you say conspiracy theories, you mean that you think that her journalistic research is like inaccurate and skewing the reality?
I think it's a lot more. It's nothing. And she's. I'm not saying she's not saying that things are happening that aren't happening. She's not being like deceitful. But the way she presents it, you know, she'll say like, oh yeah, so this guy grew up in this spy school in Russia, and this, and they just happened to meet this person, and then this person happened to meet that person. Not saying anything, but you can connect.
She's
the dots.
insinuating.
Yeah, and like
the whole time.
And honestly, she's probably right. Like I'm not saying that she's not right, but she's not. She doesn't know this for sure.
Right. And that's not ethical in journalism.
Yeah.
It's to like drop insinuation. No,
in
it's
opinion,
not
in opinion journalism, it is.
But if all shows back to back on MSNBC are essentially opinion journalism,
which they are,
or on CNN to some extent, or on, of course, on Fox News, it's a whole other like fucked over like reality.
It's a cable news phenomenon.
Yeah, it's cable. Yeah, but that's not healthy. That's like, you know, what happens when like people are primed very well now for there to be some like ridiculous takeover of power, and for there to be like one like state like, you know, I'm not. This is me being alarmist and and a bit of a conspiracy theorist. But you know, people in general don't. If they're watching TV and they think they're watching someone that knows what they're talking about, in general, people don't think that critically about what that person's saying.
No. And
they just take it as fact. I mean, in the program that I worked in, a social services program in the Northeast Philadelphia, there were people who would come up to me and talk to me, people who like really needed like the services of like the left of the Democratic Party, and would start talking to me about something political, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, like where'd you hear that? And they'd be like, oh, because I wake up and watch Fox News. And then I'd be like, you know, and people don't question what they hear, especially off TV. People really take what they hear as truth, and it's scary.
Well, and you know, confirmation bias. It's because we seek out the people that already kind of are saying what we want to hear,
right.
And then they'll add a little bit to it and a little bit to it, and then all of a sudden you build an ideology. I mean, shit. I'll admit it happened to me. I'm pretty sure to some extent happened to you guys too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was predisposed to being liberal. I will gravitate to more liberal programs, and that's how I get my ideology built. Now,
but your ideology is built on a stronger foundation of actual truth than Glenn Beck's.
Because at some point, well, okay, honestly, no, I got really, really bored working in a cubicle and I had nothing to do, so I just read a lot of stuff. But had I if I just stayed just watching MSNBC, then like, who knows, maybe I'd be, you know, saying Bernie Sanders is a fraud and like, you know, like, you know, there's Kremlin agents in my backyard right now. Like, I don't know, but I'm saying like it is.
That would never ever have happened.
Well, because I have a backyard.
Any alternate reality or this one.
Oh well, thank you.
Well, yeah, I'm curious. Can we talk about
30 seconds left.
Okay, well.
It's always coming on you. This time
No,
it's
actually, it's more of a question for, I guess, the next segment then.
Yeah.
Like, can we talk about the Russia potential collusion with the Trump administration without getting into
Yes.
Rachel Maddow? I mean, I think some of the stuff she's addressing is great, but
but we gotta take it out. We gotta end this. Hold this mic. We out.
No, this is just hallucination. You basically escaping from hallucination. Making do with fake is just a new vacation. So it seems so concerned with the scene. I prefer a lucid dream on. Dream of nights like these. Dream of taking flight. Dream of heights like these. Dreams is fucking nice. Get right like me. I'ma be alright. Man, I do this nightly. Yeah. You should tell me what you know. Now you should tell me what you see. I think it's gonna be a very nice night. I think it's gonna be like it was all a dream. You should tell me what you know. Now you should tell me what you see.